Good day, everybody. Hey, this is Rob Mazak, psychic medium here. And I'm sure most of you who have listened to me speak behind this mic know that I don't do any scripting, I don't do any practice, I don't do any reading or preparation. I just get on this mic and start talking. Usually I have a good idea about what I'm going to talk about. Tonight, I wanted to talk about the way we remember things or memories or how those things may be stored in time. I don't know if that's one subject. It sounds like a lot of subjects. But the reason I wanted to talk about that is because that a lot of things that I have done for other people or readings I've done for other people or experiences I've been through, within the last 10 years are really starting to circle back around. Trying to piece together the reason or the patterns or why these things might be happening. But I do believe that memories are a very, very complex yet simple thing. And most of us believe that we can remember things very well from our past, or even, a long time ago, even an hour ago. There's been a lot of tests and experiments, especially in the area of crime, solving crimes, things like that, where memory really isn't all that good. I think the reason for that is basically our mind is trying to piece together experiences for us to have going through this life that we are living on this planet, this place, this reality. Could be a lot of different things. We've talked about that many times. But regardless, we are getting information fed through our five senses, which are very, very limited. The example I've used many times is like trying to experience something using your five senses is like putting a burlap sack on your head and poking 5 holes in it and expecting to get the entire experience. Well, you can't. And so what happens in the mind is that it has to create things based on background or experience or things that have happened before. And in the business or line of work that I do, past life regressions is a big part of that, or looking at past lives and reincarnation and walking people through those things. And I do that through the hypnosis process that I do as well. Whether past lives are real or not, there are certainly some very complex, embedded experiences in our memories, in our DNA, within ourselves, wherever it lies. I don't know about you guys, but the more I get presented with evidence, at least in my mind, the more I believe that we do live over and over again. Of course, we don't get to remember it. But the thing is, why are these memories here? Just say, for example, that we only get one life, and that's it. When we check out, we're done. We're taking a dirt nap forever, and we never really wake up. So where do these experiences come from, if that's the case? And why are they there? In movies and things like that are presented, and whether that's reality or not, because I do believe if you look at movies throughout the years that they're really showing us what's coming or what's going on. Once again, another topic. But in a lot of documentaries and movies and ideas and things that are out there in the media, it has been talked about that creating clones, for example, especially human clones, never really works well unless you embed some type of experiential memory into the process. Because if you simply create somebody that's a copy of somebody else without any of that background, then you really can't piece anything together because you don't have anything to base these experiences together to create a reality for that clone, that person, that being. And so when clones are created, I'm running on the assumption that it's actually happening now based on what I've been reading and researching and looking at and discovering. Can't prove that, but I do believe that is really happening. But I can't imagine that you could create a copy of me without having the same experiences from my past put in there in order to make another me me. It just really doesn't seem like it would make sense. And what I have found doing hypnosis for a lot of different clients, working with clients in a lot of different ways, but especially through hypnosis and regression, I find that there is a thing called, I guess volunteer souls is one way to look at it, but stand-in souls. If a life is meant to continue here and the soul needs to depart and reconnect with God, whatever that reason may be, maybe their lessons are done, but that particular human being needs to remain in place for the purposes of the people that are surrounding them, their family, their husbands, their wives, and things like that. And so it becomes a stand-in where a soul pops in. The problem with that, though, what I'm finding in this experience through working with people is that these stand-ins have very limited background information and memories of the person. It's almost like stepping into the middle of a play and not knowing the lines from before. And so as you're saying lines, you don't know how those go together. I mean, I guess that's one fairly easy example. But the thing is, I've seen it before, and I've seen it a lot, actually. I don't think that we could actually survive as a human being and piece together any decent experience, any meaningful life without memories. A lot of times, though, we don't remember things accurately. So how does that go together? What makes sense in that equation? If memories are what help us thrive in this reality, then why don't we have access to all of them all the time? I mean, if you were to look back at your life, even a few days ago, somebody said, "What did you have for lunch?" Most of us can't remember that. And that's only a few days ago. And if we're supposed to draw things from our entire life to create our experiences moving forward and to give the mind an opportunity to actually help us create something meaningful, then why aren't we remembering every little thing? Well, for one thing, the conscious mind can't actually handle a lot of processing all at once. Now the subconscious mind is a different animal, so we'll talk about that again. If you guys have heard any of my talks, you know a lot about this already. The conscious mind can only handle a small fraction of the information that it's given. And so a lot of things get stored in the subconscious for access when it's needed. Now, we don't always get to tap into that. There are secrets to that, and there are ways to do that, through meditation and hypnosis and a lot of different ways that we can kind of open them doors back up again. Also, sometimes the memories are not going to be beneficial for us moving forward. I mean, how many of us have had things happen to us that are just tremendously bad? Unfortunately, you can't unforget them. And it makes life difficult because they're locked into even your conscious memory that you have access to all the time, except when you're sleeping, of course. It is quite the paradigm to get these memories back when you need them, and it's also a paradigm to forget them when you need to. I do believe that everything that we have, every memory that we've ever collected, every experience, every word we said, every word that somebody said to us, every feeling, every single thing is recorded and contained within us somewhere. Now, it can be in a lot of places, and it probably is in a lot of places. Just like when we store data on a computer in our modern times now, none of us trust the fact that that hard drive might crash one day. And everything that you have on that computer is gone. Absolutely done. And you can't recover it. This happened to me on too many occasions. And so what do? We always create backups. We try to create backups so that we don't lose those memories. So I do believe our human body in a lot of ways has many, many backups. And so I'll kind of slide it aside a little bit to maybe help make some sense of this. There's a lot of controversy out there, conspiracy ideas or conspiracy theories, as most people put it, that the fluoride in our water, at least in the United States, I'm not sure if it's everywhere, that it is in the water. There's not any doubt about that. That it is designed to dim us down and decrease our ability to connect with our third eye, our pineal gland. That may be true. And if that's the case at my age, and 63, drank the water, I don't know what the right phrase is, all these years from the city water, then I would be one of those candidates that would be blocked using my third eye. So how do I get all the information and the streaming and the downloads and the information from the other side if, in fact, my pineal gland is blocked with this particular fluoride treatment? Not saying it is or it isn't, because I don't think I've ever had an MRI of my head, for anybody to look at it. Where would it come from then? Well, if you start looking and studying the DNA in the individual cells of the human body, you will realize that every one of them cells has a brain. It has a mind of its own. It has its own collection. It has its own little world, right? And the DNA is so complex, it's not even funny. Last I checked, we only have mapped about 3% of our DNA, our human DNA. We understand a lot more than we used to. The DNA, the other 97%, what's it for? Who knows? But in the 3% that we know about, it is absolutely incredible in its ability to store memory and to store ideas and to store everything about us. And so we're all unique, and we all have an exact DNA signature. Maybe that's why they're collecting that. Who knows? The point being that I think that our human body has absolutely many backups and many avenues to be able to gather and pull in the experiential experiences that we've had in this life and others. We're going to talk about the others in a minute. That is absolutely necessary for our mind to put things together and to create an experience from moment to moment. If you look at something you've never seen before, if you experience something you've never experienced before, I don't know if you noticed this, but it looks like time completely stops. A second feels like a minute. It's really that little gap in our minds as it tries to analyze what you just were experiencing and make sense of it and give you a picture or an experience that makes sense. And it has to draw on old experience. In other words, to get you to understand a little bit more about what you just saw. This is a big subject, and maybe, a 30-minute podcast is not all is needed. However, I wanted to talk about the original thought from the beginning of this talk about a lot of things circling back around over the last 10 years. And so I've worked with clients for professionally, if you will, since 2016. I have been working with a lot of people, doing a lot of things, doing readings, doing mediumship readings, psychic readings, card readings, hypnosis, energy work, on and on and on. I'm not patting myself on the back. I'm saying that those were things that were given for me to do, and I listened and I'm doing them. Most of the time, when you work with somebody, you rarely get a return visit. And so that could speak to a lot of things. And maybe simply because, when you put as much time into learning these gifts and these skill sets, they really only need one session or a couple sessions. And they don't need you again. So you simply are the guy who gets to hit the start button. You've heard me say that many times. But the point is that at least I don't expect to hear from these guys much after that track record has kind of laid out in front of me. And I just learned to accept that sometimes I'm not going to see them again. all of us humans, regardless of how good or bad or you are at these things that I just talked about, all still thrive on being given that validation that what we did or what we helped them do by the information we are allowed to come through us. It's nice to know the story and how it went, and if what you did was helpful, and in that way, it's a couple things. It helps you feel more accomplished, and it helps you feel like you are doing something meaningful. But it also helps you figure out, well, maybe I can do it a different way. Maybe I can work things out a little bit different. It's a learning process as well. I mean, I tell all my clients all the time, I want to know how the story goes. I would really love to hear back from you. And even at the end of this podcast, and like every podcast, I say, hey, I'd love to share ideas, and I don't hear, but that's okay. The real point of doing anything to help somebody is not to get anything in return. But like I said, us humans, we really love to kind of get that validation and hear how the story goes. So imagine, though, that you've just met your new baby cousin, and beautiful baby and all that stuff, and you don't get to visit the parents very often for some reason or another, and you don't see them again for another 5 years, and you look at the drastic difference, and it's like amazing to see how much they've grown and changed, and you're just astounded and amazed. And it's the same thing with this. It's lovely to see somebody again, not right away, because then it makes you feel like you didn't give them what they needed, or they weren't listening or something. Back around to the original point is, all of a sudden, recently, a lot of people from my past that I have done readings for and services for are now showing up again in my life, and they're asking for additional readings or additional services. And they're also, in a lot of ways, bringing in their family members, because they've all heard about how this person that flourished since our service or our meeting have grown, then they want to be in on it. And so this is not about me. Once again, this is not about me, but there's a point to this. There's a lot of things that are coming back around, not just clients, but also a lot of things that are coming back from my past, from the beginning of this journey that I started. And this journey started with a very hard time in my life, dark night of the soul, if you will. Dug in, went all in, and here I am. That's the short story of it, rather. But the thing is that things keep coming back around, and there must be a reason for that. And so one of the things that came back around was something that just kind of stopped me in my tracks. My first past life regression that I ever had, I was kind of fiddling around with this. I was going through my journey. One of my coworkers suggested that I look at a past life regression. And I'm like, okay, let's give it a go, right? I just did a quick search, found somebody, boom. And that person became my mentor. And so I went and I had a regression. And so what was interesting about that regression is that, just like in the practice that I have, I use her technique, or the technique similar to her. When I do regressions separate from hypnosis, is that you can usually visit 2, maybe 3 lives in an hour. And an hour is a good time frame. And most of the time people do see, as many as 3 lives in that hour. I've had occasional people that won't leave the first life that we're in, or they want to go back to it. And so in my experience of my first regression that I've ever had, that was done by my now mentor, I would not leave that life, that first life. We spent the entire hour in there. It didn't seem very eventful when I was going through it. It felt like I was making it up, but the longer I did it, the more it became real. And it became this lifelong learning lesson, I guess. Well, not lifelong, because I'm still here. But you get my point. It's been a very long meaningful experience that I have gone back into. So this is the kind of the cool thing to learn meditation and connecting with the other side and connecting with entities and angels and spirit guides and on, is that when you have an experience like this regression that I had, then you can sit in meditation and you can go back to that time. Once again, that is a memory in time, stored in time. We kind of talked a little bit about that already, right? It is stored in time in the universal cosmos, the cosmos database. Some people call that Akashic Records. There's a lot of things that it's called. But I do believe everything that happens, to every minute detail, is stored somewhere. We all have access to it. I've gone back in and visited that many times. Thought I was a gorgeous woman, Scottish royalty. Found myself dead in the forest, to make it short. And we couldn't figure out why originally I had died in that life. For the longest time, I thought I was just Scottish royalty because there was castles and there was, knights and all these things. And the funny thing is, about a year and a half ago, I guess, I went back in. I was called to go look at it again. And I'm like, what it really was I wasn't Scottish royalty. I was a sex slave to the Scottish royals in that time. And that made a whole lot more sense for my life now. We won't dig into that right now for time. But the thing is that there's such great learning lessons in just that one regression. I mean, I've had many. I've done many for myself. All of them bring great experiences and help me realize why I am the way I am, who I am, what I've become, why I do things like I do them, all of that. And like I said, once again, were those lives real? Who knows? Were they imprinted? Who knows? It doesn't matter. But they have great meaning for this life and to help you develop an experience to have a great and meaningful life in the current life, whether it's our only one or it's our just one of a million. I can't prove any of that. One day hopefully we'll get to do that. The reason I brought up this particular past life that I saw is I was scrolling through Facebook one day at work because we were actually slow for a change, which doesn't happen very often. And once again, things happen for a reason. I was scrolling through it and I ran across this picture and I had to stop everything I was doing. Everything in the room went, in my opinion, went quiet and dark, and I was focused on this picture. There on this picture was the almost identical scene I saw of this woman, the woman that I was once, based on this regression that I saw, lying in the same forest that I saw in this regression, kind of laying the same way I saw them in a position of death. Beautiful, beautiful woman, same dress, everything. And it was about something else. I forget what the caption said. The point is that it just brought me right back to that lesson. So why am I getting this again? Well, I mean, it's probably a great reminder. Once again, for time, we're not going to maybe talk about all of it. But the thing is, all those experiences are, once again, why I am the way I am, the way I act, all those things, fears, regrets, everything is all mixed up in all these experiences that are embedded within us and within the cosmos. These things are always seem to be recycled in my life to bring me reminders as to why I'm doing what I'm doing, or why have chosen the profession that I've chosen. And so what my mentor helped me understand about this particular woman or this life that I was experiencing in that regression was that here lies this woman who's very traumatized and died in strange ways. But the thing is that if I went through a life as a woman, as a sex slave to royalty, then that would create great trauma that most people, even in the current life, would struggle with the rest of this life. And I've seen it all the time, right? And so what my mentor helped me understand is that this helps me connect with the predominant type of client that I get. It seems that many of the people that have come to me, that initially anyway, have come with great trauma in their lives. And 99% of them are women. And not because I advertise that, and not because I'm seeking to only work with women. That's just what seems to be attracted into this business of mine, into my profession. To me, this is a very solid message that I must stay the course, that I must continue to do what I'm doing. It doesn't matter how much I work in a regular job or the time I have to do or take to do other things in my life, but that my primary role in this life is to help others. I have apparently been embedded with the right equation of experience to help the kind of people that I'm meant to help. Now, is this all true or not? I don't know. Doesn't matter to me. It doesn't matter if that life was real or not. That experience that I had in the regression is now embedded within me, and it helps me take my path in the direction that is absolutely amazing to me to help others with. And so trauma doesn't have to be just in a specific type of gender or person. Everybody has trauma. Everybody has issues. To be able to speak the language of trauma at the core level of myself in this case, and I've had my own traumas in this life as well, it works so much better. I mean, let's just face it, if you're trying to lose 300 pounds, or lose a bunch of weight and build muscle, you're not going to go into the gym, and if you have a choice of which trainer you're picking, you're not going to pick the overweight, flabby trainer, because you want somebody that's been there and done that. You want somebody that's been through the same things or similar things that you have, that can really speak to your heart and help you through what you are going through. So I know I was a little bit all over the place here, but I think my main message is that we have memories, we have experiences that are built into us, and we also have access to any kind of memory and experience we want that is uploaded or encoded into our DNA, the cosmos, the universe, Akashic records, call it whatever you want. But that we can, if we take the time and learn the practice of connecting to that database and the database within ourselves, that we can create a much better life for ourselves, or a different life, or learn what we want, do what we want, gain any information that you can imagine anything, and you can find it, you can gather that information. Spend our time, I'm not telling you what to do, I'm just making suggestions. Let's not spend our time doing silly things, things that don't matter. I say this a lot, I don't watch TV, but in my mind, I'm not going to spend time watching the football game, people making millions, and I'm not. Why aren't I watching me? I am a pretty good TV show, in my opinion, right? In my mind, I should be programming myself and not being programmed by the other media. And I'm not saying we should not ever watch TV or never scroll on TikTok or do any of those things, because we all do that. But the point is, you should limit those activities, so that you can dig into these memories and see what's there. If you care to get into the memories of yourself, you can do that for yourself. Some people would need help with that, outside help, which is fine. We can't always do that. And so sometimes memories are not meant for us to recall. I have some memories of some really traumatic times in my life, and I've gone back in through meditation went back to these childhood places and experiences and was told that there's certain experiences that are not going to serve me and I'm not going to be allowed to see them or experience them again. I'm like, okay, as long as that's okay with my spirit guides, I'm okay with that. Let's take the time, people, and let's figure out who we really are and why we are and what makes us tick and what is at our core, what is at our base. And then we can then move forward and create the life that we want, because we've been given all the opportunities that is possible to give. And let's take advantage of it and let's move forward. And I will now go ahead and close this out. As usual, I would really love to hear from you guys. Let's go to my website, lifebymazak.com, lifebymazak.com. There's a contact page. There's a few ways to contact me. Hey, reach out to me. Let's talk. Let's collaborate. Let's share stories. And I love to hear other people's experiences because it helps me help others, because although I've heard many, many, many experiences and the craziest things imaginable, I'm sure there's things out there I have not heard yet or experienced, and so I would love to. I look forward to hearing from you. You will surely hear from me again. Stay strong and live your life.